Hey, I'm Josh at Grace Walk Farm. Today, we're planting potatoes. Hey friends, it's Josh at Grace Walk Farm. Today we're out here planting potatoes. We started planting about 2 or 3 days ago. We've got a 16-foot bed up behind the house that's already planted, and now we've decided to plant in what is usually our pumpkin patch, and we're going to row crop it full of potatoes. And there's a few reasons for why we're doing that. Number one, you don't really need to plant pumpkins until the end of June, 1st of July. Of course, it depends on the area that you're growing in, your grow zone, if you will. But for us, we won't really need to start pumpkins until we get to middle to end of June, 1st of July. We'll have plenty of time to do that. So before then, we wanted to put something in the dirt that's obviously going to help us grow some good food, but also it's going to help minimize the amount of weed pressure that we have on the dirt. We didn't want to just leave a bare, naked piece of dirt sitting out here. So we're planting potatoes, and we're planting 2 kinds of potatoes. We've bought 150 pounds of seed potatoes. That's 100 pounds of Pontiac Red and 50 pounds of Kennebec. So a Kennebec is a white potato. It's kind of an all-purpose potato. It's going to be good for baking, frying, mashing, whatever it is that you like to do with your potatoes. It's going to do very well. It's kind of a starchy potato, but it's not as starchy as a russet. But it's a really good all-purpose potato. My personal favorites are the reds, and it's these right here. This is a red Pontiac potato. The Kennebec and the Pontiac are both going to take about 100 days to be ready to come to maturity so that we can dig them up and start the harvest. So that's going to put us somewhere in the middle to end of June, getting these out of the ground. And so what we've done is we've got a plot of land here. I'm gonna, in just a minute, I'll spin the camera around and let you see it. It's about 55 feet long and about 50 to 55 feet wide. Pretty good size area. I've just filled it up with about 20 cubic yards of kind of a homemade compost. It's a mixture of mulch, cow manure, Canadian peat moss. That's about it. It's about 20 cubic yards, and that's on top of what we had out here last year. So we're really building a really good soil system. It's dark for about 5 or 6 inches down into the earth, so it's very nutrient rich. And so after we've spread that and raked it out semi-smooth, I've taken the tractor here, and we have a row maker on the back of the tractor, and I've made rows, and we have 12 rows, again about 50 to 55 feet long, and we're filling them up with potatoes. So this is a Pontiac Red, and you'll notice it's already got sprouts coming up. I'm sure you've bought potatoes at the store in the past, and they had sprouts, and people will tell you not to eat them, and that's probably very good advice. When you're planting these, you want to put this about 3, 4, 5 inches under the dirt, and then you want to mound your dirt up over top. Potatoes love to grow in a hill. If you have questions, should you plant it this way or should you plant it this way? Here's what you want to remember. Eyes to the sky. These are called eyes. You want to put this down in the dirt. You want the eyes to be pointing up, and then you'll mound your dirt over it. So that's kind of the basics of growing potatoes. Obviously, you want to keep it weeded. You want to keep them watered, but they don't have to be saturated every day. It's a pretty hardy crop. It's an easy crop to grow. as long as you take a little bit of precaution and a little bit of care. So we'll spin the camera around and we'll let you see. We've already got 4 or 5 rows in the ground, and we'll let you see kind of how we've done it. All right, so what we're going to do, I've got a 5-gallon bucket. It's not full because that's too heavy. I've got my potatoes here. I've got enough to run through. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my potatoes and I'm going to kind of go and drop them where I want them. I'll come back here in a little bit and actually push the dirt over the top. Right now I'm just spacing them out about where I want. You'll notice that the spacing isn't necessarily scientific. It should be pretty close. If you want to get your tape measure out, that's not a bad idea. What we're going to do, we're going to put about 18 inches between each potato, and then we're actually going to do some companion planting, and we're going to put bush beans between the potatoes. Bush beans help put nitrogen back into the soil, which is going to help feed the potatoes. They are a great companion. They do really well together, and it's just another way of being efficient with the land that you have. So follow along and you'll see as I drop these down. We'll come back in a few minutes and we'll actually get the dirt on top, make sure they're positioned properly. Now you'll probably have some people tell you that you need to split your potatoes before you plant them. And that's not a bad idea, that's not bad advice, but you don't have to. If you look at these potatoes, you can see they're kind of soft, a little bit spongy. What that means is that all of the nutrients that are available in this potato have already pretty much been used up to make these sprouts. These are ready to go in the ground. If these waited another week or two, probably be too late. If you cut this in two, you would get dual sprouts. You'd have twice the potatoes because you have a sprout here and a sprout here. But if you cut this, you're gonna need to let it sit out for 2 or 3 days, and that fresh cut's going to need to harden off or scab over. If you don't do that, it can hurt the potato. It doesn't always hurt the potato, but it could hurt the potato if you don't let that scab kind of keep the potato from rotting in the ground. All right, so we are back. We've got all 12 rows planted with our potatoes. Again, these are Pontiac Reds. We've got 10 rows of Pontiac Red. We have 2 rows of Kennebec White. And so here's what we're going to do. We've got them kind of spaced out where we want them now. We're going to come through. We're going to take the eyes of the potatoes and we're going to point them up. Remember, eyes to the sky. So we're going to put this here. Then what I'm going to do is come in, and you want to put about 4 inches of dirt over top of it. You don't have to pack it down, but you want it to be covered. An exposed potato to the sun will get burned, and that's not a good thing. So you want to make sure that there's plenty of dirt over top. If it's too much dirt, that's not good. If it's too little, that's probably even worse. So you want to be pretty consistent as you go through. If you want to do it by hand, you can. If you want to do it with a rake, you can. But the important thing is to make sure that your eyes pointed up. So as you can see, our potatoes are doing really well. They're just about 15 days old, maybe 16 days if I don't have my calendar correct. But they're doing super. A few things you want to keep in mind with potatoes. Again, you want to make sure that they're mounded up well, because your potatoes are going to grow down, especially with this variety here. This is a determinate potato, so I don't have to keep burying this. I don't need to keep putting dirt on top of the leaves and allow the plant to grow. These potatoes are going to grow down, and they may even grow out just a little bit. Something to keep in mind with your potatoes: it's about a 10 to 12 week process, depending on what type of potatoes you have. These right here say that they will be mature within about 100 to 110 days. So it's a little bit of a process. You spend a lot of time getting them ready, you spend a lot of time taking care of them, but it's going to take a while for them to produce. So you want to do whatever it takes to make sure that they're being watered well, that they get the light they need, and from time to time, it's not a bad idea to fertilize.